and 40 nights.
So hey guys, I'm up here at St. Paul's again, getting a few things ready for Sunday, and wanted to take a minute to do my Lenten devotion, my Lenten challenge, as I have been the past couple of days. We're on day 8, if I'm not mistaken, and today I'm not going to challenge myself too hard, because what I want to say is a bit important, because the question I had has been cropping up a fair bit. The question I've heard a lot of times, a few times recently in fact. It's even floated around amongst some of the clergy, some of our faithful people of church, people out there who may or may not go to church and all that sort of thing, but it's been a fair question. It's even floated into my house, and it's one I want to talk about briefly, about giving things up for Lent. Now, I already talked about that, why we do it and that sort of thing, but the way it was phrased this time has to do with the situation we're in. All around the world, including ourselves, we're in a situation where things are shut down, things are already stopped, things that we like to do aren't happening, and the question came up, well, is it fair, or is it right, or is it appropriate, or is it hard to ask folks now these 40 days of Lent to give something else up, seeing that we've had to give up so much? That's the question. Should the church, or me, or anybody, have to give something up for Lent, considering we had to give so much up because of what COVID has taken? I'm not going to challenge myself for a minute today, but I am going to try and keep it pretty short. The truth of the matter is, guys, is that we don't give things up for Lent as a punishment. The thing that we do for Lent as part of our whole faith is the idea that we are trying to imitate Jesus. We're trying to imitate how he lived and what he did. And when Lent comes around, we're focusing on the idea that he spent 40 days in the wilderness with nothing. He gave up so much out in that wilderness, food, water, and then at the same time was tempted the whole time too. So to give up chips or chocolate or something, or a spoonful of sugar in our tea or whatever, reminds us each day that, oh yeah, I'm tempted to do this, to eat this thing or have this thing, and I forget, and it reminds me then that I'm supposed to not do it because Jesus gave up so much, so good. But that's not the whole picture. We do this to imitate Jesus. Living our faithful life, we're supposed to be imitating Jesus. When he went out into the desert, Jesus wasn't just doing it because he wanted to give things up. He was doing it because he was thinking of others as well as himself. He went out into the desert to focus, to think, to pray. But while he was out there, because he had given up so many things, it wasn't himself he was worried about. He went out there because he was worried about the mission, his mission on earth, which meant the salvation of people like you and me. He went out there to confront the fact that he had something of great importance to do. And he had to think of so many others in that time, the whole world. And he had already given up plenty. Going out for a little trip in the desert without food and water, that has to do with his human side, sure. But think about it. He had already given up the host of heaven. He had given up living in the, for lack of a better word, royalty of heaven, to come down here and slum it as a human. And to do so, I might add, as a poor one. He didn't come as a king. He did come as a king, just not as a rich one. So this wasn't anything new for him to give something up. So what I'm trying to say to you is that giving something up for Lent isn't the whole picture. It's not about giving something up. It's about thinking of others and to emulate Jesus, to imitate him. And whether that comes in the form of giving something up to remind you of Jesus and that we should be like him, great. If it comes in the form of taking a minute every day to pray And not to pray for yourself. You might pray every day as it is, but sometimes when we pray, we think about the things that worry us. And that makes sense. But what about praying for people and thinking about what's on their hearts and minds? What about doing things for others so that they know that we're trying to keep them in our hearts as well? Or heck, why not even going apart from everyone? I mean, we're stuck at home with a lot of people, and whether sometimes that can be a bit, it gets a bit wiggy at times. So maybe even taking a small moment to go outside and to go for a walk and to take time apart as Jesus did. You're imitating Jesus. So the question was, do I think we should ask people to give things up where COVID has taken so much of the things we have? No. But at the same time, that's not what it's about. Our whole faith, our whole idea of what we do as Christians is to imitate Jesus. If giving something up helps you do that, do it. If taking something up helps you do that, do it. But remember that the reason he did it was for us, was for others. And that's as much as we need to take time for ourselves in the middle of all this fuss and COVID and craziness that's going on right now, it's also important to recognize and remember that the reason we're in this is to take it on together. The whole reason we're apart and giving up so much is to make sure that others are safe. So with all that in mind, and this is much longer than my usual, I hope you understand that it's not about just giving things up. It's about being like Christ. And however you choose to do that, do it. And not just for Lent, hey? Who knows, you might be like my dad. You give up sugar for Lent, and next thing you know, you never have it in your coffee again. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope that kind of makes a good answer. But at the same time, do Lent in the way that best suits you. Because most importantly at this time, it's not about suffering. It's about others. It's about Jesus. Stay safe. Pray safe. I'll talk to you tomorrow.